Lithium powers everything from the smartphone in your pocket to the electrical grid, but its most vital application is inside advanced military hardware. If those batteries fail, our most sophisticated defense systems go dark. Cutting off this supply tomorrow would paralyze much of our modern infrastructure. Drone fleets would stay grounded, satellite networks would go blind, and the assembly lines for next-generation weapons would simply stop. Right now, one nation holds the power to do exactly that. Through decades of strategic planning and subsidies, China has captured 80% of the global lithium supply chain. This concentration gives Beijing functional control over the assembly line for Western defense capabilities. They hold a kill switch over the components required for heavy military drones, guided munitions, and the satellite constellations that enable GPS. The push for green energy has been weaponized into a geopolitical bottleneck. By dominating the supply chain, China has ensured that the global transition to electric vehicles reinforces a total dependence on their domestic factories. This chart illustrates a striking paradox. Within its borders, China holds a mere 7% of the world's natural lithium reserves. Yet this small fraction of resources translates into a staggering 80% grip on global chemical production and battery manufacturing. Beijing achieved this by aggressively purchasing extraction rights across the global south. They poured billions of dollars into acquiring mines, specifically targeting the resource-rich Lithium Triangle of Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. Extracting this metal from the earth requires an immense volume of water. In these arid landscapes, producing 1 ton of lithium drains up to 2,800 cubic meters of groundwater, which is pumped into massive turquoise evaporation pools. This extraction leaves local populations to deal with the fallout. Indigenous communities across the Andes face severe water shortages, toxic chemical pollution, and the loss of agricultural livelihoods that have sustained them for centuries. The clean electric vehicles rolling off assembly lines in the West carry a heavy cost, one paid directly by the vulnerable communities living closest to the mines. Western governments are finally recognizing their vulnerability. Officials in the US and Europe realize that their electric vehicle targets and the production of F-35 fighter jets are entirely exposed to Chinese leverage. To force companies to build supply chains outside of China, the United States passed the Inflation Reduction Act. The law ties billions of dollars in consumer tax credits directly to where an automaker sources and refines its battery minerals. Other nations are using brute force to secure their own supplies. The Russian military specifically targeted and seized Ukraine's Shevchenko lithium deposit, turning mineral acquisition into a direct objective of the invasion. Meanwhile, South American countries attempted to form an OPEC-style lithium cartel to control global prices. But efforts to nationalize the industry have stalled, hampered by political instability and a lack of domestic refining technology. Even China is struggling to maintain its supply without inflicting damage at home. To boost domestic production, they've started extracting lithium from lepidolite rocks, a process that has already caused toxic river pollution and massive environmental fines. Digging materials out of the ground is proving to be a highly destructive, deeply unstable way to power the future. Relying on traditional earth mining guarantees constant geopolitical friction and permanent ecological ruin. Securing the supply chain doesn't have to mean opening new, ecologically destructive pits in the earth. Instead, we can recover what we've already spent billions to extract. The solution is urban mining, the systematic recovery of highly concentrated lithium and rare earth metals from the electronic devices we already use and throw away. The scale of this untapped resource is immense. In a single year, the European Union alone generated nearly 10 million tons of electronic waste, filled with discarded circuit boards and spent batteries. Modern automated recycling facilities can now recover up to 98% of critical metals from dead batteries. This closed-loop process yields the exact same battery-grade materials as a traditional mine, without the environmental devastation. Major Western tech companies are already pivoting. To secure their own assembly lines and insulate themselves from geopolitical shocks, massive hardware manufacturers are shifting to fully recycled components. If Western nations scale up these domestic recycling networks, they can begin to bypass the bottleneck of raw materials and regain sovereignty over their technology. The old phones and laptops sitting in your desk drawer aren't trash. They are high-density mineral deposits that could decide who controls the infrastructure of the coming decades.